Okay, so today we are going to be doing my end of week reading vlog for week 3 of May 2020. You guys, I have had the most amazing reading month. I cannot say that enough, and it would be unfair to sell the month short because of just how amazing it's been. The lowest rated book that I've read so far this month has been 4 stars. I have not had a month since I started doing this channel where I've had no 3-star, no 2-star, no 1-star rated books. So it's been an amazing month for me, and to have such an amazing month happening for my birthday month has just been an incredible reading experience, and I'm just so happy about that. So let's get into what I've been reading this week and discuss those books, shall we? Let's get right into it. The first book I read this week was this book, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So you guys love when I read the blurb, so I'm going to read the blurb on the back of this book. But before I do, I'm going to tell you that this is a middle grade fantasy book following Harry Potter. It is the 3rd book in the Harry Potter series. If you haven't been following me, I've been reading every Harry Potter book since the start of this month, 1 book a week, and I will continue that on in June because there are 7 books. So week 3, read the 3rd book, and I gave it 5 stars, and this is what the blurb says. Harry, along with his best friends Ron and Hermione, is about to start his 3rd year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Harry can't wait to get back to school after the summer holidays. Who wouldn't if they lived with the horrible Dursleys? But when Harry gets to Hogwarts, the atmosphere is tense. There's an escaped mass murderer on the loose, and the sinister prison guards of Azkaban have been called in to guard the school. And it was a thrilling tale. I had so much fun. This is a reread for me. Harry Potter, as of March 2020, Harry Potter is my 2nd favourite series. My favourite series of all time is Mistborn. We'll talk a bit more about that in just a moment. But this is my 2nd favourite series. I have not read Harry Potter in a very, very long time. To reread this book was amazing because it is arguably my favourite book in the entire series. Now, we'll see if that changes as time goes on with this reread in 2020, but this was my favourite when I went through my first read and my second read through of Harry Potter all those years ago, because it's just so much fun. The character arcs in this book are amazing. One of the main characters, Hermione, goes through a really massive character arc and lots of character building throughout this book. She just changes in so many ways, but so much for the better. I mean, I've always loved Hermione anyway, but there's just so much more to her in this book. The growth of Hermione is amazing. We're also introduced to some new characters that are wonderful. There is a new teacher at the school who's probably the best teacher that I've seen so far. And also, there is a massive twist with this escaped, what do we call him? Mass murderer. The escaped mass murderer, there is a massive twist with that, and it's a really good twist to read. There's just so many good things about this book, about the series in general. I definitely recommend you read Harry Potter if you haven't before, but Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is my absolute favourite of all of them. So far in my reread, this still holds up, but we'll see as I move on to read the final 4 books in the works if that still holds up. But I gave this book 5 stars, and I had so much fun reading it. My only con with this book is when I got to the end of the book and realised, oh no, it's over and I can't read any more Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So it was just sad to be done with this book, but really enjoyed it, gave it 5 stars. The second book that I read this week was Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. Because I have found out that I've been saying his name wrong all this time. I thought his name was Rick Riordan, but it's actually pronounced Riordan. So I do apologize, Mr. Riordan, for that. Now, as you can see in the background, there's a gold and blue cover right there that I'm pointing to. And that book behind me is The Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Hero. I read that book a couple of months ago. I think it was in March, and I gave it 5 stars. That book is the start of the 2nd series that Rick Riordan wrote, and it was the 2nd series that comes from the world of his first series, and Rick Riordan's first series is the Percy Jackson series. This is the first book in that series. So I had the choice after I read that one, The Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Hero, of whether or not to continue on with the Heroes of Olympus series and pick up the second book, or to go back to the start and see where it all began. And clearly, that's what I ended up doing, starting with the first book in this series. This is a middle grade fantasy. You guys know how much I love my fantasy. So let's quickly read the blurb. But before we do, I'm going to tell you that I rated this book 4 stars, and I'll tell you why when we've read the blurb. So the blurb says, "Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood. I never asked to be the son of a Greek god." Ooh, so that, to me, that's a major spoiler, but that's okay. It's in the blurb, so I'm allowed to read it. Okay, "I was just a normal kid going to school, playing basketball, skateboarding, the usual, until I accidentally vaporized my maths teacher. Now I spend my time battling monsters and generally trying to stay alive. This is the one where Zeus, god of the sky, thinks I've stolen his lightning bolt, and making Zeus angry is a very bad idea." This book is so good. It's really good like that book. The only reason I gave this book 4 stars as opposed to that book, which I gave 5 stars, is because there are lulls in this book, and those lulls, yeah, there were too many lulls and I had to downgrade it by a star, but it is better than 3 stars, so I gave it 4. It basically revolves around the protagonist, whose name is Percy Jackson, the titular character, Percy Jackson, and he is a half-blood. So what that means is that, sorry, he's not a half-blood, I do apologize, he is a demigod. And what that means, in case you don't know, is that his parents, one of his parents is human, the other one is a god. So he's half god, half human, calling him, which refers to him, which means we refer to him as a demigod. This book opens up with Percy's normal life. He has no idea that he is a demigod, and then through a series of events that unfold, he finds out that he is one, and he goes off to the camp that's in this book and also in that book called Camp Half-Blood, which is where I got the Half-Blood thing from a moment ago. This camp is amazing. I love everything about it. But the best thing about this book and that book is the fact that Mr. Rick Riordan has done so much research into Greek and Roman mythology. You can tell that he has, because it is pieced and parceled out throughout both of these stories that I've read so very well. If you love Greek and Roman mythology, or if you love Greek and Roman gods and goddesses, you will love these series because they're just intertwined into the story so incredibly well. And even though this book has been out for a while and I didn't know about it, I must have been living under a rock, which is fine for me. I have to say that it is a very enjoyable read, and I do definitely recommend that you pick it up. I have not seen the film for this as yet, but I really enjoyed the book. So that's the second book that I read this in the 3rd week of May 2020, and I gave it 4 stars. The final book that I read in week 3 for May 2020, I have literally just finished. I finished it about 5 minutes before I started doing this video, and that book was this book, Divergent by Veronica Roth. Oh my goodness, this book is amazing. Now, before I read the blurb for you guys, I will let you know that this is a young adult dystopian book. So if you don't know what dystopian means, think of utopian or utopia, where everything is going really well and everyone's really happy because the world is perfect. That is utopia. The opposite to utopia is dystopia. This is a dystopian book. Basically, dystopian books, from what I'm understanding, are books that have a tyrant at the helm who has created this class system, and this is not just this book, it's any dystopian that I've read so far. It's created a class system to ensure that the world works the way that the tyrant, the head of this world, wants it to work, because this tyrant believes that's the best way for this world to maintain order. So I've read many dystopians and I love them all because I love seeing the world building that goes on in dystopians. I love reading about the classes. In this series, the classes are actually known as factions, which we'll get to in a moment. But the next thing I want to tell you guys about, specifically about Divergent by Veronica Roth, is that I've seen the film a few times. I love Divergent, the film, so much, but I had never read the book. Well, I've had some experiences this year with books that I've read that I've already seen, say, the TV show of, or I've already seen the film of, but never read the book, and there've been mixed results. Sometimes I found the book to be okay, sometimes I thought the book was worse than the show or the film, and sometimes I found the book to be much better than the film. With this book, oh my goodness, I love the film, but oh my god, I love this book so much more. And that says a lot because I really do love the film. And so the fact that I came out loving the book so much more than the film says so much for me that I gave this book 5 stars. So let's read what it is about. On the back it says, the first book in the Divergent trilogy. In a society divided into factions, all are forced to choose where they belong, and the choice Beatrice Pryor makes shocks everyone, including herself. During extreme initiation tests, Triss must determine who her friends are and whether she can trust the man who both threatens and protects her, because Triss has a deadly secret, one that might save those she loves or destroy her. So good. So yes, it does follow our protagonist Triss, who is the lady on the cover there, and so at the start of this book, Triss is in her faction, which is Abnegation. I really hope I get all of these factions right, you guys. If I don't, I apologize. Abnegation, who are a selfless faction. What you need to know about this world is that everyone's divided into one of the factions. Abnegation is all about being selfless, putting yourself last and helping everyone else first. But she doesn't feel like she truly belongs in abnegation, so she goes and does an aptitude test, which the aptitude test is that each person, once they turn the appropriate age, they end up being tested in a simulation. And the simulation is meant to determine which faction will best suit them. What you also need to know is that the simulation determines which faction will best suit them, but it is not the determining factor of which faction they'll go into, because what I love about this book so much is that the faction is not chosen for whoever it is that's going into this new faction once they become of age. Because once you become of age, you go into whichever faction you end up in. The twist with this book is you choose that faction yourself. So you may come out of your test, your aptitude test, and it might say, you're meant to be in this faction, but you want to be in this faction? That's fine. On the day, you choose this one instead of this one, and there's no qualms with that. The only rule is that once you've chosen your faction, there is no going back. You have to live in that faction for the rest of your life. So Triss is in Abnegation, the selfless faction. She feels she does not belong there, and there are others that I'm going to try and remember. There is Amity, which I believe is the kindness faction. There is Dauntless, which is the faction of bravery. There is Candor, which is the faction of honesty. And I think that is it. No, I'm missing one. There's Erudite, which is the intelligence faction. And then there's her one, which is Abnegation, the faction of selflessness. So Triss goes for her test and her results are undetermined, making her Divergent, which is very uncommon and actually could be very threatening to her. So she's told, don't tell anyone that you are Divergent. No one. You can't trust anyone because they'll probably kill you if they find out, because everyone's meant to just have one result that comes up in their test, but she has all of them coming up. So Triss now not only has to keep that secret that she is Divergent, but she also has to choose what faction she's going into. Is she going to remain in Abnegation, or is she going to go somewhere else? And if she goes somewhere else, where is she going to go? This book is so good. Oh my god. From start to end. There are moments in the film that I don't love, but in the book I do love them. There are things that the film has changed, which I found really interesting because I thought that the film stayed very true to the book, but it does for the most part, but there are just certain things that they happen. It's not like the film has taken those things out. They do occur. It's just they occur in a different way to the way that it occurs in the book. But anyway, I love this book. This book got 5 stars, and just like with Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, my only con with this book is that it came to an end and there was no more that I could read. So that really annoyed me. I gave this book 5 stars, and I will definitely be reading the second book in this series, which I have right here. I can quickly show you it. Insurgent. I'll be reading Insurgent in June because of how much I love this one. So you'll see that in my June TBR. So those are the books that I've read this week. Now let's move on to the books I'm reading in the coming week, the 4th and final week of May 2020. And not surprisingly, the first book that I'm going to be reading in week 4 of May 2020 continues on with the Harry Potter series with a chunker, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This is a massively thick book, and as you may have noticed with the other books I've shown you compared to this one, this is the only hardback cover, so hardcover rather than like with Divergent, it's a soft cover called a paperback. I prefer to read paperbacks, but for the sake of nostalgia, when I first read Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, I read it as a hardcover, so I'm going to keep the hardcover for this read because it would just feel a bit weird reading it as a paperback considering this is what I've always read it as. I'm really looking forward to reading this one, so let's quickly read the blurb. The summer holidays are dragging on and Harry Potter can't wait for the start of the school year. It is his 4th year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and there are spells to be learnt, potions to be brewed, and divination lessons, sigh, to be attended. Harry is expecting these. However, other quite unexpected events are already on the march. Yes, they are, and I'm so glad the blurb doesn't go any further than that because there is a lot that happens in this book, which is why it is such a chunker. In fact, this book is 636 pages long, which takes it to 136 pages over being a tome. The next book in the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, is the longest book in the Harry Potter series, but all of them from Goblet of Fire onwards are at least 600 pages. So Harry Potter 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all tomes. They're all at least 100 pages over the 500 page mark. So I'm looking forward to not only reading this, but I'm looking forward to having more to read because as much as I loved Harry Potter books 1, 2, and 3, they were over so quickly that it's going to be nice to have a really chunky book to read and really get lost in this world for a significant period of time. But this will be the first book that I read in week 4 of May 2020. I'll be reading this on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. The second book I'm going to be reading in week 4 of May 2020 is this book, Blood Promise, which is the 4th book in the Vampire Academy series. Now you can see behind me that I have, it's hard to point there, I have 3 books. It's really hard to point backwards. Those 3 books there. In between the selection and Mistborn, and they are the first 3 books in the Vampire Academy series that I've been reading, and I started reading them in February. So in February I read book 1, in March I read book 2, in April I read book 3, now I'm going to read book 4 in May, I'll read book 5 in June, and book 6 in July. So I'm really looking forward to reading this book because I read up to the end of book 3, I believe, in the first time round with Vampire Academy, and then I stopped reading it, so I'm looking forward to jumping into this one. Let's read the blurb if I can find it. I can't find a blurb. Okay, I do apologise, but there is no blurb for this book. I'm going to show you the back cover. There is no blurb. It says, lose yourself in the world of Rochelle Mead. Love and loyalty run deeper than blood. Blood doesn't lie. There's no blurb, so I can't read it to you. All I can say is that this series follows the protagonist, Rose Hathaway, who is a Dampire. One day I'm going to work out how to say that word correctly, but I just don't know. It's one of them. It's Dampier, or Dampire. And what that is that she is someone who is training at school to become a guardian to protect the Moroi, which are the royal vampires at Vampire Academy. She graduated in the last book, and so this is going to be the first book after she's graduated, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how all of this works out. It is a vampire paranormal series, but they're not just vampires. The royal vampires also have magical powers, so it's kind of like vampires and magic mixed together in one. So it makes for a ton of fun. The first two books I found to be rather meandering for the first three quarters, with the final quarter being just so much and so action-packed, and it was really good. That made me want to read the next one. But then with book 3, it was fantastic from page 1 all the way through to the end. I loved it so much. So I'm really looking forward to getting into book 4. So I'm going to read this book from on Thursday and Friday and maybe Saturday. I don't know. Something like that. We'll see how it all works out. But the final book I'm going to be reading, not only for week 4 of May 2020, but the final book I'm going to read for May of 2020 is this book, The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. You guys, this is my Mistborn. So I'm going to be, starting off the week with my second favourite series, Harry Potter, reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. And I'm going to end the week and the month with my favourite series of all time, Mistborn. So in 3 months ago, so again, was that February? Yes. In February, I read the first Mistborn book. In March, I read the second one. And in April, I read the third book. And that's they're called the original Mistborn trilogy because the fourth book, this one, takes place hundreds of years after the conclusion of the third book, where the characters who were in the third book are no longer alive in the fourth book because of how much time that has passed. But it's still part of the original series. It's just not the original trilogy. So it's like the second trilogy in a 6-book series, if that makes sense. So let's read the blurb of this one. Welcome to the roughs where magic is essential, but at least the dangers are clear. Scadrial has changed. Ever taller towers race for the clouds, and railways and canals crisscross the land. But Mistborn is still a place of magic. Yay! Kelsia, Vin, Elend, Sazed, and Spook, who were in the first 3 books, may be legends now, but even as science reaches new heights, the old magics of allomancy and feruchemy, which are the magic systems, still have a role in this reborn world. In the roughs, the wilds beyond the cities, it's a critical tool for the brave men and women attempting to establish order and justice. Waxilium Ladrian's one of them. So Waxilium Ladrian is a person's name, and they are one of them. Now, after 20 years in the roughs, Wax has been forced to return to Elendil. He must assume the duties and dignity incumbent upon the head of a noble house, or so he thinks, until he learns the hard way that the mansions and elegant tree-lined streets of the city can be even more dangerous than the open plains. I am incredibly excited to be continuing my Mistborn read because I love this book so much. All of the Mistborn books are high epic fantasy with hard magic systems, which is just a really fancy way of saying they are books that exist completely in a world that's not our own, a completely new world that we don't know about, and the hard magic systems is a fancy way of saying there is a lot of magic, but the limitations of the magic itself are very clear. So the magic is well fleshed out in this series. Even if there are new things that you learn along the way, you not only learn what those who wield magic can do with this new thing, but you also learn the extent of what they can do with it. So what they can do, what they can't do, what is enough, what is too much, what is not enough. You get everything. And that's what I love about Brandon Sanderson. He doesn't just say, here's some magic and let's see how our characters go. He does a ton of research before he writes his books, and then he really shows you, rather than tells you, the extent of this magic and how much you can do, and also what its limitations are, which is just so much fun and so epic and such high action, and it's just amazing. I could gush all day, but I'm not here to gush. I'm here to quickly tell you this is the last book that I'll be reading for the month of May, so let's move on. So let's wrap up the end of the third week of May, and once again, just to quickly go over it with you, the first book that I read in week 3 of May 2020 was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, to which I gave 5 stars. The second book I read was Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. Sorry, Harry Potter's by J.K. Rowling. I assume you know that, but I should say that. Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. I gave this 4 stars. Then we have Divergent by Veronica Roth. I gave this 5 stars. Those are the 3 books. These 3 books are the 3 books that I read in week 3 of May. Hello, 2020. And for the books I'm going to read in week 4 to wrap up May are Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Massive chunker. We'll see how we go. Second book I'm going to read is the 4th book in the Vampire Academy series, Blood Promise. And the 3rd book I'm going to read is the 4th book in the Mistborn series, Alloy of Law. So it's been an amazing month for me reading wise, and I can't wait to conclude with Harry Potter Harry Potter Book 4, Vampire Academy Book 4, and Mistborn Book 4 as well. It's a Book 4 continued series week here at Mr. Fancy Reads. So how are things going with you guys? How is your reading going? Have you read any of these books that I read this week? If you have, comment below and let me know what you thought of them, or what else have you been reading this week? I would love to know and love to discuss that with you guys. Alright, so just quickly before I do end this, I'm not going to have time to review both of these books, but I am planning on reviewing one of them tomorrow. I put a poll up into the Facebook group, Passion for Groups, as I usually do, with both of these books up there, where you guys, if you're part of the group, and all you need to do is go to Facebook, follow the link below, I'll leave it there, and once you're accepted into the group, vote in the poll for which one you want me to review. Whichever one gets the most votes will be the one that I review on Monday. So I'm looking forward to that. But let's wrap this up because this video has gone on for more than long enough. I didn't think it would go this long. Thank you for sticking with me through the end of week wrap for week 3 of May 2020. And until next time, I'm letting you guys go. Peace, blessings, and so much love. Mwah. Happy reading, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Bye.